Welcome to Access Europe for December 2024. It's meeting number 34. And as always, the meetings are scheduled to last up to 7:30 or so to give time for chat at the end. If you want to know what meetings are coming up, the easiest way of doing this is to go to either my website or the official Access User Groups website. And we have got, as well as Adrian this month, we've got Philipp Stiefel, John Mallinson, etc., etc. We are booked up to June, but we may rearrange things at some point as well. Anyway, so that's what's coming up in the next few months here. This slide here, before we get on to our main presenter for this month, I just wanted to mention some important things that many of you will be aware of, but perhaps some will not know all the details. First of all, there are two major new features that have been added to Access 365, unfortunately only Access 365, and they are improvements, significant improvements to be more precise, to the modern charts feature. It was rather limited for several years, and it has now been dramatically extended and improved, and they're still adding further improvements there. I've got a very long article. In fact, I've got two articles on my website, Modern Chart Improvements, and because the latest update added another new chart and several major improvements, I've got a second page there as well. There is a link here to the official Microsoft support. I'm sorry, I haven't got the direct address there. It's on the control tip text. But if you go to my website, you'll see a link to that one, so you can still get to that. What they haven't yet done is added VBA support. That is coming, I believe, in the next month or so. And also there may be yet another chart to follow. 1 month after modern charts were released, Monaco SQL Editor was released. That had been waited for many, many years, and a lot of people were eagerly and very keenly waiting for it to happen, and then rather disappointed when they found out that it had a significant number of bugs. You can find out the details of the Monaco SQL Editor again on my website, and also Microsoft have got an information page about that as well. What they haven't got, but I have, is a list of all the known issues. And as they are being fixed, and recently they have fixed a significant number, I am also indicating that as well. So Monaco SQL Editor isn't perfect yet, but it is getting there, and hopefully will be pretty good soon. Even if you knew about that, you may well not know what they are planning for the next 6 months. And there's one major feature, which is their top priority, and another one which will then follow, and they haven't fleshed out the details of that. The one that we've been asking for a long, long time is to get rid of the restrictions for form widths and report widths of 22.75 inches, so that they can then support them filling, if people want them to, the whole of the large monitor. And at the same time, they're going to go a degree of responsiveness in forms, a bit like my automatic form resizing. I have been asked to work with them in planning the initial stage. Not that I'm doing any coding, but I will be involved in prioritizing what they're going to be doing and hopefully persuade them to do the things that I think are most important. If you have any views about what that feature should be, please try and contact me by the end of this week by email, any page on my website, and let me know any views you have. The second feature that they announced, and that surprised a lot of people, was that they're going to reintroduce source code control into Access, something they dropped without any warning at all back in Access 2013. There's no great demand for it to come back because there's replacements now, but they've decided to do that anyway. And if you want to know more about that, if you go to Carl Donnerbauer's YouTube site, you'll find his quarterly news video. The latest one has got details about these new features from a recent conference there. So that's all I've got to say about that. If you've got any questions, put them in the chat and I'll come back to them later. Welcome to anyone who's joined since I started this. I've seen several people here that I recognize and some of whom I haven't seen for a few months. This month, we're very pleased to welcome Adrian Bell, who is fellow Access MVP from the UK, has been an MVP for much longer than I have. His website is accessconsultantuk.uk, and He is going to be talking about how you can use fairly old technology, command bars, as a very simple way of creating custom ribbons. And without further ado, Adrian, if you are ready, I am going to stop sharing.
Hello, everybody. I have shown some of this code before at Access Specific with George, so he'll recognize some of this and some others of you who will have been there. I plan to take questions at the end due to relatively tight timing. I'm trying to fit more in this one. And before I go too much further, can I ask, and please reply in the chat and Colin will monitor, does anyone have any experience in using this? Now, I know the answer for some of you, but it would be interesting to know what sort of numbers there are in the audience who have used this stuff before, as far as ribbons are concerned, rather than using it before the ribbons came in, which was a while back.
Right. So far, apart from me, mostly no. We have got Jeff Griffith, who we know, and welcome, Jeff, is a yes. And a couple of other people say yes. In general, the answer is no.
Right, okay. Many people will know me already, but if not, all of this information is available on the site as the presentation that you'll be seeing today, as well as the two databases. And eventually there'll be a video made available of this presentation. But do give that time, because it takes quite a lot of time and effort to get that prepared. But immediately after this is finished, the files I use will be made available. So all the code, all the presentation, and the working databases. So let's move on. Why care about command bars? Command bars show up immediately in the add-ins ribbon. Okay, so there is an existing ribbon in Access that everyone has but very rarely see because it's got nothing in it. So if you go to your customized ribbon, you'll see a ribbon there called add-ins, but it doesn't have any contents. So generally you don't see it on your Access screen. So the nice thing about command bars is that they show up immediately. You get code, it runs it, say add me a command bar and a command bar control, blah, 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 and it will immediately show up on your screen. For more information and understanding of command bars and the command bar controls, they are still in use in the Visual Basic IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So you will see examples of them in the VB IDE. Anyone that's been using Access for as long as most of us have will remember prior to 2007 and the introduction of the ribbon, that was common in all of the applications as well, but they are still used in their native way, the way they were originally designed in the VB IDE. Ribbons are very awkward. Sorry, very awkward or hard to change in code. That's not easily done. So this is why using this less than perfect option is worthwhile. That's why we care about them. Custom command bars can even be set up as temporary. I'll cover a bit about that later, but the CommandBars.add method provides a parameter called temporary. If you give it true, then it's a temporary. You close your project down, you close Access, or you just close the database, it's gone automatically. However, what we're looking at today will be managed code that manages command bars. We'll probably use temporary in most cases, but even in spite of that, we're going to tidy them up after us as we go, because we're tidy coders, and it helps to have that information and understanding. So before I go on too much and show the first demonstration, I'm going to say, here are some concepts. Command bars, or CBs, I often refer to CBs as command bars as CBs, command bar controls as CBCs, and another common one is CommandBarButton, because most of the time, in my experience anyway, you're using CommandBarButtons. So they're CBBs. Okay, just so that if you come across it in any of the text, you'll know what I'm blathering on, okay? In this first demo, we're going to see a single command bar with a single command bar button. The most basic concept of using command bars. Create a command bar, shove a button on it, and click it. Okay, simple as that. Now, CBB.onAction, so the command bar buttons on action property, specifies what runs when it's clicked on. Okay, that will be important because it's no good having a command bar button there that you can't get to do anything. We want to use it. It can be very, very flexible. So what we put in .on action is, I would say, critical. More concepts. CommandBarButton Action. Talked about this a little bit, but there's a lot to unpack in this. Again, review this slide later for a more detailed understanding. I'm not going to go through all the stuff here, but I will break it down into some basics here. One is functions and subroutines are both supported, but with different formats. Only functions support passing parameters. So you can have a subroutine procedure, you can't pass parameters, or let's put it more clearly, I have not found a way that you can pass parameters in that format. Excel has more control over specification of other project files and modules, etc. You can actually call the function in another Excel file somewhere and tell it which module in that file and which procedure in that module. I have not found a way to do that within Access. Access gives you what you can get from just the procedure name. So if you have a procedure, it could be a public, could be one provided by Access, it could be one provided within your project. If so, it has to be a publicly available one, so in a public routine. So they're things to bear in mind. But as I say, you can look at the detail of that later if you need. I don't want to spend too much time on that. We could easily get bogged down in the weeds. What my database does, in the first demo, we're going to see a database that creates, deletes, shows, and hides custom toolbars. It basically manages the command bar and the command bar button. I will be using a single one of each, and the action will trigger either menu func or menu sub. So I've got three different ways of creating the button, which I'll demonstrate. Only one of them passes a parameter. The other two are a menu and a function. And when you click on it, what it will do is it will open a dummy form, but it will show in the dummy form the calling parameters. So just so that you can see that it's working as it should. First of all, we're going to see it working. Then we will remember what you see at this point, because when we've done this, I want to take you through some of the code, mainly the class module that does the CommandBar and CommandBarControl fundamental work management. But first of all, I'm going to show you this working. By the way, when I do all this stuff with record management here, this is only got 3 items in it because I cleared away a lot of the others that didn't work. This I will skip. I'm not going to be looking at that. So first of all, I want to create command bar using a menu sub. This is the one that doesn't allow parameters to be passed. It tells me I've set up a command bar button with the on action of just menu sub, exactly as that. Okay. And when I go into add-ins, that's my command bar button. Okay. If I click on it, I get another menu come up, another form come up here. It says this form, FRM main menu, was last invoked from menu sub. So we called it and just told it menu sub. So close that now. And now I'm going to go on to the next one, which is menu func, but without a parameter. So I'll delete the previous one. Okay, and create the new one. And this is on action equals menu func, parentheses. Switch back in. Again, the command bar is very similar. When I click on it, again we get the main menu, but this time was invoked from menu func. Excellent, just as expected. Now I'm going to do the very last one. Need to delete it first, and you'll see that the add-ins toolbar disappeared. Create new command bar equals menu func 3. And when I click on it, it looks the same, but when I click on it, I get this, but it tells me it was invoked from menu func with a parameter of 3 passed. By the way, all these command buttons are all dummies. They don't actually do anything. They're all disabled, just to show that the command bar button can call code and get it to do things in your project. So we've already cheekily seen what delete new command bar does. It deletes the command bar. So I'm going to have to add it again so I can show you show and hide. So we're back in there, and if I say hide, it disappears. Because it exists, I can say show and it comes back again. If I delete it, so it no longer exists, and I then try to say show, it's not interested. Okay, that's the basics. We've all seen what it can do. What I'm going to do now, let me is I'm going to switch across to the code. I will briefly go through. Can you all see that, by the way? I hope
Yes, we can, and the size is fine.
Marvelous.
Yes, it's big enough.
Perfect. Now, as I said, most of the stuff is all record movement and irrelevant, so I'm going to skip that bit. On opening the form, it does select object, run command, window hide, etc. That hides the what do you call that bit on the left?
Object Explorer in the VBA or the navigation pane?
Bit here.
Navigation pane.
Navigation pane, thank you. That when I open it, it hides that. Okay, and it sets a focus on CBO action. Now I'm going to go to the bottom because the most important bit, obviously, is to create new command bar and command bar button controls from scratch, which is this one, CMD create. Most of this is just checking that everything is as expected. It doesn't allow you to create a command bar if you've already got one. So it comes in here and says, forget that. ObjCB. Now, ObjCB, I better tell you about that because it's created for you at the top. It's a private ObjCB as class command bar. We will be looking in more detail at class command bar later. For now, it's important to know that we have an object that we can refer to in our code. So with this class object, if not CBB is nothing. So what that does, first of all, it says, is CB nothing? At the moment, it will be nothing. But I'm saying if not CBB nothing. Well, when it starts, CBB is nothing. So if it already exists, I tell it to delete it. So we're going to look at Manage Toolbar and all it does, but mostly what it does is it gives you a task, it's given a task, and it executes that task. Then we do this. This is the meat of the job. So we're going to say call Manage Toolbar, and we'll do a create, and we're going to pass it the project name twice, because the project is going to be the same. The name of the command bar and the command bar button will be the same. And we'll pass it txt on action. And then we tell the user that we've done that. That's all that we do, because all the work is done in there. Now, I'm going to quickly go through these as well, because they're that minimal. Forget the form close will get rid of any command bar that's there. So it tidies up. Exit is the button that you should use to close, but you can pull the other one as well, as in the X at the top right. If you do that, it will still close, and the form close code will work, even though you haven't used the exit button. Then we've got very simple 3 procedures here. All they do is call Manage Toolbar and give it a task that matches what they've been asked to do. The only difference here is that some versions, not this version, we allow the show to work even if it doesn't already exist. And we say, okay, if you want to show this toolbar and it doesn't exist already, we'll create it. But we're not doing that. So that's the code behind the form. Relatively straightforward, I would have thought. In the class, we have private items for the command bar and the command bar button. We have 2 properties that allow us to return to a caller the objects which are the command bar variable or the command bar button variable. That's the basics. The rest of it is all Manage Toolbar. That is one procedure. Apologies for skipping around. I know that can be a bit disruptive. I'm trying to make it flow so that you can see it more clearly. So Manage Toolbar has various tasks. And the main task, as before, is the create, which is why I'm going to quickly zip to the bottom and show you the other ones quickly. Delete. This is the only relatively complicated one. First, it checks, do you have command bar button? If you do, it deletes the command bar button and then sets it to nothing. Otherwise, it skips down to command bar. If that's nothing, then there's nothing to do. If you call delete and you've got nothing there, it will just do nothing. But if you do have something there, it will delete it, and then it will set it to nothing. Whenever you ask for a task to be done by Manage Toolbars, Manage Toolbar will be set to true if and only if the task completes successfully. So that's delete. Hide and show are even more straightforward. If it exists, then set visible to false for hide, and if it exists, set visible to true for show. Okay, I'm going to get back on now to the main Manage Toolbar code, which is the creation. I was going to remove that because it's mainly related to the Excel, so I'm going to skip that. Select task, select case str task, create. I'm going to scroll now just for a second so that we have just the create in front of us. For create to work, it needs all parameters set. So it checks first to see if they're set. If they're not, it exits, and the create manage toolbar variable value will not be set. So the Boolean will return false rather than true. This creates the command bar. It doesn't create it as we want it. It creates a bit of a stub, but we give it a name. We tell it MSO bar top, and we tell it temporary is true. They're the parameters we want. Now we populate the rest of it. Shouldn't go that far. We populate the rest of it. We set dot top equals 0, row index equals 1, left equals 1. Protection is MSO bar no customize. I don't want anyone fiddling with what the code is managing. So then within there, we then do essentially the same thing for CommandBars add, which is the command bar we've now got .controls.add, and we tell it the type. In this case, it's MSO control button, and then we set the detail of that command bar button. Face ID 2950. I'll come into that a bit more later, but 2950 is a smiley face, which you've seen already. On action is str on action, the value we passed. Tooltip text is the name we give the command bar button and menu at the end, and the caption is command bar button name and menu at the end as well. So they're the same. I should mention, just as an aside here, we might come to it a little bit later, but it's not something we'll cover in detail. Command bars have a name property. Command bar controls do not. They do, however, have a caption property, and when you refer to a collection of controls, you can use the caption property as an index. So you can use the number, which one is in the list, as well as the caption property. Most collections of this sort use a name property. That's not true for command bar controls. They use a caption property instead. So then we have the style, and I've used MSO button, icon, and caption below. I'll talk more about that later, but that basically says use both the icon and the caption. And then before we proceed, because command bars, when you add them, are created as invisible. Visible set to false. So we set .visible equals true, and then we have both the command bar and the command bar button visible. Okay, now I'm going to switch back because that's the first demo. What have we just seen? Management of custom command bar and command bar button, where management is creation, deletion, hiding, and showing. And we've also covered some reusable VBA code to handle that. What does my next database do? It manages numerous command bars and command bar controls. I will certainly include command bar buttons, but there are a couple of other types that I will also include in a limited way. I'll just show that they exist and they can be created. I won't utilize them in any great way. This illustrates positioning of the command bars and command bar controls, particularly with different styles. So we can move on to that. Most of the code behind this is very similar, not exactly the same, but similar to what we've shown. And there is a time limit, so I won't be able to go into the code of this in any great detail, if at all, probably not at all. However, it all will be made available, as I mentioned earlier, so you can look into it and go into things. It starts off with a command bar, and I'm going to start adding command bars. The first thing you'll notice, add a command bar, there is no toolbar, no add-ins, I forgot the name for a second, no add-ins toolbar created. I've got a toolbar there, it's not set invisible, visible property is set to true, and yet it doesn't show. Because, I'm going to add some more, it doesn't show because a command bar only ever shows if it has any visible controls associated with it, or on it. Now I'm going to move, because I can, onto the command bar button. We'll talk about Face IDs. Before I go much further, I'm going to show you these are all the possible styles available for a command bar button. One of the things that I haven't covered yet, but I will, is that in the ribbon version of the command bars, there's only really 3 possible options that make sense. The others all map into the same 3. That is either an icon, or a caption, or an icon and caption. You have no control over where the caption goes. You can say wrap below, not wrap below, to the right, to the left. Well, you can't say to the left, but you can do all sorts of things. And all of those are ignored, except for, does it include the caption? Does it include the icon? Or does it include both? I'm going to come off there for now. And I'm going to show you that here, I've listed a number, not a very large number, a number of Face IDs. Now, the old smiley face down here, 2950, which we saw earlier. However, we're not limited to that. In fact, we're so not limited to that, if I can very quickly show you something which one of our guests here today made available to me. That would be Jeff Griffith. Thank you, Jeff. He's provided, and this is also in the database that's included in here, something which shows. I'm just going to give myself a bit more room because this doesn't seem to be showing everything. He's provided a whole bunch of what the different Face IDs are. I've taken a very, very small subset of those and included them in my demonstration. I could have used lots of others, but I had to find names for them, and these were the easiest ones I could find with names. Now, another thing you'll notice after I click that little switch across to there is the styles now for a command bar button now include just the 3 valid ones. Okay, just to make it easier for us to work with. So I want to create a command bar button. I'm going to take one of these command bars and I'm going to add, let's make it old access first. So I just want the button for now, and I'm going to add that. And we can see that it's added that. We can also see we now have an add-in. I'm going to repin that because I don't need the extra space now. And we've got the old, oh, that's not an old one, that's a new access icon. Sorry, I didn't spot that earlier. Nevertheless, I'm going to go to old Excel and add that to the same command bar. We're going to explore in a minute, and that isn't the same either. Okay, it's upgraded. Maybe the new Outlook is also, sorry, the old Outlook could be the new Outlook too. Who knows? Yeah, looks like it. There we have a single command bar. Even though it's the last one we added, it's got the only one to show. So you've got 3 little command bar buttons. Now on the tooltip text for each button or each control that gets added there, I give a text that shows the name of the command bar itself and the name or the caption of the command bar control. So this one is CB15, CMD 001, 002, and 003. Okay, now I'm going to bosh loads more into just so that we can have a bit of a play. I'm going to go back to 1. I'm going to say, let's do the bridge order of suits. And then right below that, we're going to have the whist order of suits. Sorry, the first one is, oh, something didn't work. I haven't finished. I haven't added clubs. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to here and add the whist ones, which is hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades. Though I doubt any of you care about that. Spades. Now, again, under the hood, they're just CB02, CMD009, etc. Now, I'm going to add the same ones again, but this time with button and icon. So that's spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. Sorry, this does take a while. And you'll notice that as we go, and I'm going to, let me just add loads of others in I'm going to play around with some different stuff. I'm going to say, let's introduce combo box because we can. Combo box doesn't have a Face ID, so that's grayed out, but this does have a style, and this is simple. Do we include a label or not? So I'm going to say a label for this one and add. Creates a new, I put it on a new, 2 of those, a new command bar. I'm going to do one that's normal. you'll notice that certain things take more space than others. That was combo box. Text box has no Face ID, no style. The only thing I can do is start new group. I'll come to that in a minute. I can't even provide a label with this one. Doesn't support that. So now I'm going to see if I can just go a little bit more. I'm going to go back to buttons because most of the work was done on buttons. Style, I'm going to do just the caption. And we got clubs. I don't want clubs. I want smiley face. Smiley face is good. Done smiley face, but I've just said caption, so it's not really shown up at all. So I'm going to change that to button and icon. And just for a laugh, have another one, which is icon, followed by caption. And icon and caption. Now, notice this, when you see the selected item, when I hover over it, this is two items in one item. That's one item, but two aspects, the icon and the label. This, however, is different. It looks very similar, but essentially these are not connected. These are two separate buttons. And again, we go back to one of the same. Now I'm going to create a new command bar, and I'm going to show, and same again, smiley face, just the icon in this case. I'm going to add a few, and then I'm going to say start new group. And I'm starting new group every time on these. Okay, nothing obvious. Let's try it again without that for all of them. So what do we notice there? We seem to notice that there's no difference whatsoever between whether you say start group or not start group. So this I discovered after I was halfway through, turns out to be irrelevant. It's another one of the items. Remember, when command bars are being managed by the add-ins ribbon, much of the control you had in ordinary command bars is no longer supported. These come where they come. You can't say add this at the beginning as you used to be able to. You can't say put the text to the below as you could have done before. I will just very quickly cheat, get this back up, because that toggles this. MSO button, icon, and wrap caption below. That's all nonsense. It doesn't support that. Back to the valid ones. Worth bearing in mind that the add-ins toolbar, or the management, the ribbon, manages a lot of it for you, and it doesn't give you the capability to specify a lot of what was previously you could specify. Now, what I want to do here first, very quickly, is I'm going to create another one of these, which is this one here, CB6 CMD39. Now, what I want to do here is I'm going to take the command bar button and I'm going to hide it. And you'll notice, if you look at the ribbons at the ribbon at the top, that will disappear because the command bar will no longer be a visible command bar. It's got no visible controls on it, so it doesn't show. If I show it again, you'll see it comes back. But also notice, and I'll do that again very quickly, how every other command bar resorts itself related to where it is in the list and how wide in that group of three, because you'll have noticed, so I probably should have mentioned this, but you'll have noticed that the command bars as they're displayed are always, they start at the top left, they go down to a level of 3. When there's more than 3, they go back to another column, and you will always have one column or more columns of command bars and command bar controls until you've got none, of course. It will always work out the widest of the 3 command bars, or however many there are in there, and set the column to the widest so that they can all be seen and fit. But you'll notice that in the first column, this is quite wide, so these take up much less space, and you've got loads of unused space here. but it does it in columns. So when I then take this one and hide it again, you'll notice how everything repositions itself. Of course, it's not repositioning itself, it's being repositioned by the ribbon for you. Okay, so we've shown hiding and re-showing. We've shown hiding and we've shown showing. That's why I got confused. I'm now going to go through and delete. I'm going to delete items here. So just to show that it can be done. So I can delete individual items. CMD8 is one of these. I believe that's the first of those. Okay, so if I delete, that one's going to disappear. I can delete in any order. I can delete the last one, which is spades, or I can actually delete the whole command bar and it will take all of them and get rid of them. And then shift everything up. Okay, we're pretty much finished now on this. The exit, I can tell you, will do a complete clear out of all the command bars and command bar controls. But another way of doing that is if you delete, and please pay attention to the moving of the command bars and everything up the top, but if you delete each command bar, it will manage deleting all the command bar controls as well. So I'm going to go through here and delete them all manually until I get bored, and then I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to delete them all. Now, back to the presentation. So what we saw there was loads of custom command bars and command bar controls. I'm afraid we didn't go into too much detail of the text box or the combo box, just an illustration that they are available and you can use them, not something I would tend to use myself. Reusable VBA code to handle all that, although I haven't gone through it directly, it is available in the package when it's finished. What my next demo shows, this is a very brief one, and it basically shows external apps being started from a newly created command bar and command bar button. Okay, or not a command bar button, newly created command bar and various command bar buttons. Again, we switch across. So I'm going to say add items. Again, there are no available command bars at this point, but I'm going to add that. Go to the add-ins, and we now have a single command bar with 3 command bar buttons, and they invoke standard programs. These are all ones that were reasonably simple to do using the shell command in VBA. So that's why I chose these. There are, you will have seen earlier, loads and loads of FaceIDs. You can shove a FaceID on here or just the name and get it to do all sorts of things. But this is just an illustration. That's an untitled notepad. Okay. Then I can open the calculator, which is so much more sophisticated than I remember using it when I last used it. I haven't used it for a long time, you understand. Okay, and the character map. These aren't brilliant external applications, but they just illustrate that you can do all sorts. You have great power and flexibility using this. Now I'm going to say exit that, and you will notice that that removes those items. Now, one of the things that Colin wanted me to emphasize was that you can use non-temporary. So you could use that if you had something that you wanted to show or you wanted to be available in your version of Access all the time, you could have a program that sets them up and leaves them. And so you could give this a database. It does very little else other than setting up your command, the ribbon for you. And then that could close, and then whoever you gave it to, say you were part of IT, you wanted to give them this ability to this stuff available when they're using Access, you could do that for them and they would be left as permanent, unless and until the user decided to go through the file, configure the ribbon. What have we just seen? External apps being invoked from within an Access project. The example VBA is included with the database, even though I haven't actually shown it. That's pretty much what I have. I haven't had an opportunity to look at the questions, but I do see there are 1 or 2 of them. So if you're able to manage that for me, Colin.
Will do. I'll read out some of these. Some have already been answered or done since. I'll come possibly to 1 or 2 people. Right, back about 20 past 6. Tim Finch asked whether the ribbon can be maximized automatically when the add-in ribbon is, or the add-in tab, if you like, is shown. And I answered, yes, you can easily do that in code. No point actually showing the code here, but yes, it can be done.
On the other hand, I think that's a very good point, and I would be interested in seeing the code for that.
Yep. Okay. I'll try.
Doesn't have to be now, but I would
No.
be
Yeah.
interested.
I have code to maximize and minimize and hide and show ribbons, so I can provide that. Paul Steele asked about additional command bars, but you've shown that since. Alessandro asked where the names came from for the Face IDs. You just added them yourself. Unfortunately, there are no names; they're just numbers.
They were, because that's what I was showing. But you saw in the last one, there were certainly the label came as Notepad or calculator.
No, that's not. He meant the Face ID names.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry. Yes, you said that, and I misinterpreted what you said. No, all that I have, those names I gave it.
Right.
Make it easier to show that there are no signed names.
Crystal gave a link for downloading all the Face IDs. I'll check it and put it in the video recording as well, or unless I can find a new one still.
Sorry, Colin. I think they are not the Face IDs. I think they are the MSO IDs for the ribbon controls, not the Face IDs for the control bars.
Okay. Thank you. I believe I got them originally from Gunter Venus's site, but I've forgotten to check before this meeting. Gunter Venus has got a commercial ribbon creator, but I'll search and I'll find a link for those, unless Jeff manages to find the specific place as well. Right, Chris Kleiner asked two questions just now, one of which I think the answer is no to both of them. The first question, can the command bar object reference an image from the image gallery? In other words, one of the shared images. Ade, have you got any views on that? I think it's no.
I don't. I'm certainly not aware of how it would, because I've only seen the Face ID interface, but it's not something I've looked at, and if I've not sort of really explored that. It's not impossible that there's a way that can happen, but I don't know of a way if there is.
Is there an image property for the individual buttons?
Not that I'm aware of. There is a Face ID that serves as the image property.
If I may chime in for a second, I believe you can set random or images of your choice for the picture property of the button. I think there is such a thing. But to use images from the gallery or from the shared images in your database, you yourself need to write the code to read the image, transform it to a usable format, because the types of images that can be used there are quite limited. So you need to transform it and then assign the image to the button. So I'm 99% sure it's possible, but it's nothing that can be done with a single line of code or so. You need to take care of quite a few steps in between.
Okay. Can I just confirm, Philipp, you're referring to command bar buttons, not ribbon controls, not the normal ribbon control?
Yeah, of course. You're talking about command bar buttons. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, because and the reason I was asking is because I've done this with the ribbon, but I was curious if you could do it this way, because, you know, obviously entering the XML for building a ribbon and stuff, well, great. This can be changed on the fly, which is a nice custom feature.
It is. I mean, it has advantages, but also it has its own idiosyncrasies or limitations. And your second question has already been answered by somebody else. No, unfortunately, you cannot, by this method, have large image sizes. You can't have, there's no choice. They're small or small. You can have any size you like as long as it's small.
Yeah, they're exactly as I showed. There was no control over that. It was all done for me. There was an icon with a Face ID and a label.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was a size property to it. Nope. Okay. All right, cool.
It has to fit it all in. You know, I explained how the columns work and how different, you know, command buttons go across or controls go across, bars go down, and they have to fit 3 into that space. So that's it.
Paul Seals come back to his earlier question about a second command bar, just to stress the point that by this method, all of the items you add go onto the add-ins tab, even though it's not an add-in, it's badly named, but it is what it is. Ade showed quite a lot of different individual command bars. Let me get this the right way around. Different command bars are displayed vertically, and different command bar buttons on the same command bar are displayed horizontally. That's correct, isn't it? Right. So yes, they were shown there, and they are in the examples there. Paul, I think I meant toolbar. I don't understand what you mean there.
Yeah, Paul.
Go on then, Paul.
Okay, my apologies. I probably got the syntax wrong. What I meant was when Ade was adding all those command bars, let's say the actual small icons and everything, they all appeared in that one custom toolbar block. Now, on a normal, when you use a normal Office, you've got it split down to like imports and exports and that sort of thing. So that's what I was just asking, curious, is could you have like for Access, you have the imports, then you have the exports, and then you have outside programs, external programs. So you've got.
Sorry to interrupt your question, Paul, but
no, go ahead.
Need to understand. Are you talking about? Let me go. Tell you what. Let me switch across to here. Are you talking about the various different ribbons that we have at the top here? And are you?
Yeah, you see now. Look at those ribbons below them. They're broken down into sections.
Right.
Okay, so you've got import and link, export and web linked. Now on yours, you created one of those called custom toolbar, but everything you created, all right, they were command bars. They were all going into that one pot. So you did get what you could see now on Access. Everything you had went into the left hand.
I understand the question. Let me see if I can formulate.
So I was just curious as to say
it's a good question. It's a good question.
Put let's say your Office one, so you have another one of those, pretty much like Access has done it there.
Paul, give me a chance.
Yeah, sure. You don't have to do it now. I'm just curious.
No, it's a good question. The answer is no, you don't. In add-ins,
yeah,
custom toolbars is something that is an attribute of the add-ins toolbar.
Right.
And they've created a group. Remember I mentioned we couldn't even do grouping on CommandBarControls. We certainly can't do grouping within the add-ins toolbar. We might be able to, if I just very quickly go here, if we look at options, one of the options is to customize the ribbon. Now, this custom toolbars isn't created by me saying I want custom toolbars. I've just added a what's his name, and this is created automatically. Now, if I were able to open another item under here, a new group, it doesn't appear that I can. See, in here, I can say new groups because it manages groups. These are the groups that you're referring to.
Yeah.
I believe. Okay.
Yeah.
This one is created for you automatically, and the idea of being able to rename or create a new group is grayed out.
Are you able to just maybe add one from the left?
No.
No, because these are commands. They're not groups.
Right. So the answer is no.
and actually, that's a very good question. Could I add that into the add-ins? It appears not. Maybe I need to add it in there. No,
you can't.
Custom.
Can I just contribute there? This whole technology was Microsoft's method of allowing you to retain old command bars that you created from Access 2003 or earlier, when the ACCDB format was introduced in 2007. So in a way, the way they did it was half-baked by calling it the add-ins toolbar, when you may have separate real add-ins there. But it is basically, Ade is making use of this technology, but it is very restricted. You cannot change it beyond what he showed.
But that's a good question. I mean, I didn't think of that. Yes, that's a group. That's a toolbar group, but it's the only one that they allowed in that they allow in the add-ins toolbar, it seems.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay. Any other questions for Ade on this month's excellent presentation? I see no hands or voices or
Messages.
whatever. Okay, in that case, I will share my screen again, Ade. We can always come back to you
Of course.
if anyone.
Yeah. Let me see. I've got
If
to
you
stop
if
there.
you stop, yep, thank you. Just to remind you then that what you've just seen, Adrian Bell, the files from this presentation are available on each of those two links there. And if I just drag across here, there is on this page here a zip file with a PDF of the presentation and the two Access databases you showed, complete with all those 10,000 Face IDs. Thank you, Jeff, for providing those. It's not a very big file, so that's available now. It's also on the other website as well. Thank you again, Ade. I'm sure you will find lots of people will find that useful, as you said, for the flexibility of being able to do it on the fly without having to restart your Access database as you have to by the XML method. Next month, we have Philipp Stiefel, who some of you will know by name from his Code Cabinet website. Philipp is based in Germany and was an MVP many, many years ago. And Philipp is going to be doing a talk on COM add-ins for Microsoft Access. It was only after Philipp and I discussed this that I found out that Crystal and Jeff are actually doing a similar talk on add-ins tomorrow night for Access Pacific Group. They can come back to that if they want to. I'm sure the focus will be different, but the really important thing to stress before I pass over to Philipp is that next month, the first Wednesday of the month would be New Year's Day. And so because we don't want you to be conflicted by drinking and coming to Access Europe, we've delayed it by a week. So it'll be Wednesday, the 8th of January, 2025, same time, but a week later than normal. And I will send reminders out about that at the time. Philippe definitely won't be here on the 1st. I probably won't be either. But if I remember, I'll turn up and just remind those of you who forgot. And you can find out details of that on the Access Europe website and on the Access User Groups website. Philippe, would you like to give us a teaser for next month?
Yes, of course, Colin. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me today and in January for the real presentation. And as Colin already said, I'm going to talk about COM add-ins in Microsoft Access and in the wider sense for the whole Microsoft Office system. And COM add-ins are there for a very long time, since Access 2000 actually. So they probably have their 25th anniversary very soon, if they hadn't it already. And nonetheless, they never were really in the limelight, even though they are a really powerful tool, not for work like directly with Access, like Adrian showed us today, but you can use them to extend the functionality of Microsoft Access as a development tool. So it's something that you as a developer will use, but usually you will not ship it to your users. So it's just for you as developers. And I'm going to show you how to work with these. And I'm going to show my examples in VB.NET because you need another language. You cannot develop them with Access themselves, but you can use basically any language that is able to create compatible classes. That also includes the amazing new Twin Basic and of course other languages like C++, C#, Pascal and whatever. There's a whole lot of languages. I am using VB.NET because I'm familiar with that, but that's not a mandatory requirement. Addressing the matter of Crystal and her co-presenter who are talking about add-ins tomorrow, if I got that correctly. If I read the announcement of that presentation correctly, they are using VSTO add-ins that also are COM add-ins, but they are slightly different, a different flavor of COM add-ins, and you cannot use these VSTO add-ins for Access, as far as I know. What I'm going to show in January is the basic foundation of COM add-ins, and that is definitely a little bit of a different flavor of presentation as well. That's it from me for tonight.
Thank you, Philipp. The co-presenter is called Jeff Griffith. He's the one who provided the face IDs for Ade in this one here. Philipp, you're happy you've covered all you wanted to do today. We look forward to you. Remember, everybody, as I keep saying, 8th of January, not the 1st. Thank you all for attending. Good luck to Crystal and Jeff tomorrow at George's meeting. We look forward to Philipp after Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas, all of you. Thank you to everyone who's turned up. And thank you again to our presenter for an excellent session earlier, Adrian, and in advance for Philipp. Thanks again to everyone for turning up, whether you spoke or kept your microphones off throughout. And hopefully we will see you all in January on the 8th for Philipp's talk on COM add-ins. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice Christmas.